Welcome to OK Copy Podcast. Today we are joined by Shirley Williams, director and agency owner of Willie B Studios. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, friend.
I'm so happy to have you here. I know we share a lot of time offline talking about trials, tribulations, ups and downs, but it's been amazing to watch your journey and see you grow and establish your own studio, and definitely want to be able to get into that and share all of your insight and knowledge with the audience here.
Thank you. But before we do that, first of all, I love the name of this show. I remember when I saw you post it, I was like, okay, copy. Like, I love the name of the show. And I love and adore you. I admire you. I know we're peers, but I still look up to you. You know, you had an agency well before it was even a thought and a concept in my mind. And seeing you and seeing Whitney, you guys helped me to see what was possible. So thank you for taking risks and doing the work, being an example. And then also, y'all, Tahira is so generous and so transparent and very much a person who is for the people, constantly sharing her insights and her learnings and her gainings to help me in my growth without prompts, without being asked. She just gives. So what you see is 100% real. And I adore you. I love you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that and sharing that and seeing me. Sharing is my favorite thing to do. If I could just sit and share resources all day, which is why I love being able to do this podcast and be able to like expand even out of our bubble and share as much as possible. I didn't have anyone to give me any information. I didn't have anyone, reputable to cling on to build my career off of. Like, I don't have any of that. It's very much like starting from the bottom and just retaining information as possible. But I don't think that has to be the path for everyone. I think we could afford to have more tools, even as we talked about, even in this stage, as founders, have more tools and more resources. So you do the same. You have your office hours, which I definitely want to talk about because I saw you post that. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. Look at her giving back and actually making the time for it.
Yeah.
How you do that, I don't know, but I want to hear more about it. So, but before we get into that, let's take it back. Let's talk about how you started and how you even discovered this line of business.
Yeah. So how can I make a really, really long story short? I went to school for on-camera acting. A lot of people do not know this. I went to a conservatory in New York City for 2 years, and then coming out of the conservatory, my mom was like, girl, this dream you got of being an actress is not paying these student loans. Lady, I need you to get active and get some income coming in. And so I reached out to some friends, and Kristen Carter, who you guys have worked with before, she helped plug me with a woman named Joy Chin. I have to drop names because these are Black women these are Black women who I had no experience, and they reached out and supported me. And so Kristen connected me with Joy, who gave me a transcriber job on an Oprah show. And from there, it started to snowball. I started working in post-production. I went on to oversee a bunch of post-production for television shows. And then I started working in documentaries, producing documentaries. I worked with Joe Berlinger, who is just a phenomenal director. And then coming out of my doc experience, which was a lot, documentaries, the type of documentaries I was working on was just emotionally heavy. I'm a sensitive person. I'm an empath. So it was challenging. A friend of mine, another Black woman, Nadia Rush, was heading up development for Pure Wow, which is an entity under Gary Vaynerchuk's VaynerMedia. And she was like, hey, listen, just come help me out on some branded projects. It's low, light lift. And I was like, okay, I'm tired, I'm burned out, but I'll come help out my friend Nadia. And then I got introduced into branded content, and I was like, I love this. I love the challenge of having to take story and do what I would do in a long format in a 45-minute show, a 30-minute show, or hour and 30-minute film, and having to now tell this same story with the same structure in 15 seconds, in 5 minutes. And the budgets were better, right? And it was fast and it was quick, and I could see the fruits of my labor manifest much more quickly. And I got addicted. So I started producing, and then that led into directing. And I started directing a lot of campaigns for really, really big brands. I've directed campaigns across all industries: auto, sports, consumer goods, food. And then I remember, and I was bouncing around to a bunch of different publishers, and I was seeing a pattern. I'd be at I'd be at a specific publisher. I'd execute a campaign, and then brands were coming back and bringing big business as a result of my brilliance and my creativity and my leadership. And then I started seeing what those budgets look like, right? And I'm like, oh, but I'm only getting, point zero zero, right? A little fraction of it. Mm-hmm. So I would say about a year and a half ago, I really started to dream, because I was like, well, God, I know me. If I set anything in my mind, I'm going to get it. As a director, I could say, hey, I have this ambition to become an Oscar award-winning director. I was like, that's self-serving. There's a ceiling there. I get it. And then what? And then what's it for? Is it, so that I get some status? And I started questioning a lot of my own beliefs around what was possible and what I could do. And then I went on a fast for about a month, and I really, really allowed myself to dream without limitations, without barriers, and seek out, like, well, what is next for me and what would really, really challenge me? Because everything that I have in my head, I know I could do with ease. And I'm familiar with all these things. And what can I do that would actually add extreme value to the planet and be a great contribution to people, to humanity? And I was like, oh, I could do my own production company. And then I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna do it. And over the past year and a half, this thing has gone through so many iterations, which I wish more entrepreneurs were transparent and honest about, because right, what we often set out to do, it doesn't turn into that thing. It goes through so many forms and evolves. So over the past few years, over the past year and a half, this vision that I've had, I really see it as an evolution. It started as one thing, which was really like a production company, which is what I knew. And then it turned into so many different things. And now we're actually going through a rebrand, which I'm excited about. And it's forming more into a content studio. But that is how I started. And this is where I currently am.
I love it. I've watched the evolution, but even hearing you break it down, did not know that you started in acting. But that makes a lot of sense. But also, I think what I've always known and I've always admired about you is you really understand the work. You're not just coming in with like a top line perspective. Like, you understand all the way from post to directing to producing to then also creating and being able to have those client conversations. I think that's what's going to continue to make you stand out amongst any competitors or really anyone that you're coming up against. I did want to take it back to directing, because I do feel like there's editing and there's producing, but what made you want to really pick up the camera and start leading in that way, and leading the creative in that way?
Yeah, there's a few things. One, I knew that directors are really powerful, and they have a lot of control, right? And I see and I saw the way that our industry functions, and I saw so many injustices and I saw a lot of inequality, and I knew that me being at the helm would create a completely different experience for everyone in this space because of the way that I choose to lead, with kindness, with intentionality, with grace, giving people the space to actually be their full selves and bring all of who they are authentically and be the experts in the thing that they're an expert, and not me micromanaging, but actually me uplifting and elevating people to be excellent and to add their value, whatever that is, to whatever project we're working on. And I saw how stifled that was with other directors, and I wanted to be the change and create space for other people to have that kind of experience. And that was really like a leading factor. A lot of that was in reaction to I had worked with and in support of so many just mean directors, and I saw how it harmed work.
Yeah.
I saw how it harmed the work, how it like the output. As I would hear, because I was an EP or a producer, right? I am charged with holding the grievances of people working on set. So I'm hearing all this. I'm seeing how it's harming them, and I'm like, man, if I already know I got it. I visually, creatively, like I get it. I understand it, right? It's a formula, it's a structure, it's a gift too. So that was a big part of it. Like I know with me at the helm and me holding a lot of the power, I could do it in a much more gracious and responsible way. And I love being creative. Like I'm a problem solver, I'm a solutionist. I love when things are fragmented and working with different teams to come together to pull all the pieces together so that we can experience this vision that I have in my mind, or vision that has come from the client. And I've always known that I was, I got the confidence, I got the chops, I have the knowledge, I have the understanding. Who else to do it but me?
I love that. Who else to do it but me? I had to like note that because you were speaking to me. I've always actually wanted to direct, but I've felt like I need a certain level of technical experience with the cameras that I don't have. And so I'd love for you to talk about that. Like, did you take time to understand cameras? Is it something that you're continuing to learn? Did you have like a DP partner that you leaned into that helped you continue to grow? Or what was that experience like for you?
You know what? There's this really good book called Key Person of Influence. And what it looks to do is to shift our paradigm to be more so of a, instead of what I know, who do I know? I think a lot of times, especially as Black women, so I'm not surprised that I'm hearing this question come from a Black woman. We are under the auspice of having to do it all, right? I gotta do, if I want to do it, I have to do it. And the book helped me to reframe from, it's not about me doing it, but who do I know that can do it? So I knew that and this is my belief, that the most important qualities of a director is having strong leadership qualities. And then the talent of, visualization and communication, which are other really important, essential qualities of a director as well. That felt more secondary. And so I did. There was a DP. Her name is Holly Fisher. I remember I would schedule meetings with her where I would just say, hey, can you just teach me about lenses? So I would have a basic knowledge, a basic understanding. So I'm not a technical guru, but I would say I understand on a very basic level, like very, very, very basic level. But I would schedule time with DPs that I knew so that they could educate me on on their lenses, on their bodies, what's their approach to framing, to lighting. And then I would find people, especially DPs, who they may not have a G&E background, but they at least had a basic knowledge. So I, as a director, my approach was always partnering with the experts, partnering with really really solid people who knew their stuff. So if it's a DP, partnering with a DP who understands all things cameras, all things lenses, and they had a basic knowledge of G&E, a basic knowledge of lighting, because I knew all of that would make our partnership just shine. So I don't know much about cameras, much about lenses, but I look to partner with creatives who actually do.
That's really helpful. And I do it, I think from being a producer, I did notice that about a lot of directors that I worked with. But honestly, I think I always took like a judgmental lens that it was mostly like the white men
Mhm.
that would do it. And so it just like, it was like a behavior that I looked down upon. But I think that you're right. It is about having, the right people. And I think about building a team and even running a company. I don't know how to do everything in my company, but I have a lot of key partners, whether from workflow. I don't know how to build or manage product. That has been shown over and over again as we've been building. But I have an amazing partner. We have an amazing CTO that actually knows what to do and then gives me the language and the tools to go do what I'm good at. So no,
Mhm.
that is great insight. So one of the things you didn't mention, but also one of the ways that I met you is through Who You Know. Can
Yep.
you talk a little bit about that program and what it did for you, and also what it has done and maybe still is doing for creatives of color?
Yeah. Who You Know is one of the largest communities of BIPOC professionals in media entertainment. It was started by Bree Frank, who's a production executive. And the intention is to create a really, really safe community for people of color, where they can come and share their experiences in the industry, where they can come and get learnings and insights and education that will support them in their advancement. So I recently stepped down from my post at Hugh just because I have a lot going on. But I worked with Hugh for 5 years as head of strategic planning and partnerships. And my responsibility there was to basically find partners that we could do work with. And so we did cool things with CNN, with Nat Geo. I believe they have something coming up soon with Lucky 8. But yeah, we were like bridging the gap between the industry employers and the industry employees who were people of color. And it's a phenomenal org. Bree, who is the mastermind behind it, is obsessed with Hugh. She's obsessed with serving our community. She's fueled with love and good intention. We just did something really cool out in Cali where we had, I wish you were out there, but it was really dope. You would have loved it. It was like a wellness day for Black female executives, where black and we had like 15. It was very specially curated, very intentional about who was brought into the space, but a safe space where these high end, high earning women at the table, executive women, that all your big networks, all your big production companies, studios came together and just talked about the challenges we were all having and finding ways and solutions that we can first support each other and take care of each other, but two, continue to be disruptors in our industry.
That sounds amazing. What that's really what I've always admired about you and really the Who You Know family. You guys are really intentional about making sure that everyone feels supported and being, open to connecting people in any way possible. We have a direct line to Nat Geo should we ever come up with something amazing to create because of you ushering us into the door. And I think that speaks volumes because it takes a very long time to have that level of access to a network of that capacity. And then it's like once you're in that community, it continues to expand. And I love seeing that. And again, very admirable of you, because what I continue to hear is your through line is like, it's all about creating a safe space for people and community. I want to be a director because I want to create safe space for my crew. I want to own an agency because I want to create a safe space for other people and everyone that I work with, and even my clients. And that intentionality is going to continue to go really far. What's also admirable is you taking intentionality so far that you are doing office hours. Mm-hmm. And tell me about like what made you want to start offering that up. Does it help you create a little bit of structure around maybe all of the inquiries that you get? And what has it been like now that you've been doing it for a couple of months? I'm curious as to even like, what do you get asked the most?
Yeah. You know what's so funny? You hear the same questions. They're just framed different, but you hear people are always in the same situation, which is typically a space of transition. They're here and they're trying to get here, and they're trying to figure out what's the road that they can take to get them from A to B. Like everybody is having the same conversation. They're just using different words and the circumstances are different. But underneath it, foundationally, it's all the same. Working with Hugh, I work with Hugh. I also am an admin for Media Mavens. And we have about like 7,000 women who all work in the industry. And there's about 4 of us who serve as the admin there. Nice. I sit on the board for Post New York Alliance, and we're responsible for Post New York Alliance. We're responsible for lobbying for the film tax credit here in New York, and I do a lot of mentorship there. And what I find in serving in all of these groups is that everybody is asking the same questions. And so what I decided to do was say, okay, listen, I also started this during the strikes because people, and they still are, we're feeling the after effects now. Mm-hmm. People were hurt and scared and horrified. And I'm like, man, how can I use my gifts, what's in my hands, to help people even further? So I was like, I can commit to at least just 1 hour a week where I'll open up my office for an hour, and anybody that wants to come, they can come and they can ask questions around whatever it is. And if I have an answer or if I have a suggestion, I'll share it. If I don't, I'll try to point them to someone that I think might be a good fit. And I mean, we've had directors of big production companies come. We've had people from studios come. The intention really was to serve more of like the green or the new entry people, because they're really trying to navigate the space. And I've done so much of that, but tons of those folks. But just to see this diversification of people who are all coming, who are all in need, it grounds me week to week in the truth that we're all the same. We're all in the same boat. It just all looks different. I've had people from Microsoft come, like big researchers, and they're just like, hey, I saw this thing on LinkedIn and I got a really cool show idea, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I get it seen? How do I get it sold? So many different people from different industries, but a lot within our industry just coming to get support. And I've seen people get jobs, revamp their resume, launch up a website, get connected with their favorite producers, have a breakthrough around a concept that they were holding in their mind, and there were so many barriers around it. They were having a hard time with it. So I've seen some really transformational things happen just from me opening up a space once a week and giving people the opportunity to talk and ask questions.
And did a lot of these people come from LinkedIn, from you posting it on LinkedIn?
They came from Media Mavens, Women in Reality. A lot came from LinkedIn. A lot came from Hugh. A lot came from Made in New York, which is the city's program to create more jobs and opportunities for people who come from marginalized groups in New York. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember signing up for Made in New York like way back when, and then I got my internship at the same time, so I ended up going that
I
way.
love that.
I got into the industry because I found an internship on Craigslist while I was in school, and then just like came and worked my tail off and got offered a job from that same company. But I remember researching Made in New York as one thing to consider. So I love hearing that and seeing that, and I feel like I need to tap back into them as well. But that's amazing. And what I appreciate that you said was we are all in a state of transition. We're always, we're here, but we want to be there, right? And we need space to be able to share with one another, to be able to ask questions, to learn and take insights from other people to then apply to whatever it is, whether it's leaving your job, launching a new product, launching a new show, or even being confident enough to even present a show or present an idea and pitch. So I love that. I don't formally have office hours, but as you know, and I feel like everyone does, my door is literally always open, probably until like 10 o'clock. Y'all know I'm in bed at 10 and catch me at 5 a.m. Again.
One thing I also want to note, and it supports what you were just saying. The way I'm always asking for, like, I'm always in need. I'm banging on people's door all the time, like, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me, especially with me being in this new landscape of entrepreneurship. I don't come from, a bunch of, I didn't have one entrepreneur in my circle growing up, in my family, in my adult life, other than like lifestyle entrepreneurship. But I'm talking about folks running enterprises, right? So I'm learning, I've had to learn a lot about people and education and cash flow and all these things, right? And I'm like, I need counsel. I need help. I need people who are wise and have experience to guide me through this, my own experience. So in that, with me constantly asking and seeking help, I believe in the law of reciprocity, right? Like, I can't be taking and not giving to people in need. Right. So I'm always like, I'm going to give more than I ask for. It's only right. And then in that, it comes back to me tenfold. So it's great. It's an investment. This, me being able to open my mind up and let people in and pull out whatever it is that they may be in need of.
Yeah. And it's really important to not be afraid to ask questions. Like you said, a lot of us feel like things need to be perfect, or you need to put on a show and kind of act like you know things. But no, you have to open up yourself and have that vulnerability and willingness and curiosity to learn from other people. I remember in 2019, I looked around and I had been giving and pulling up people and working and pouring into people. But when I looked around, I didn't really have a circle that I could learn from myself. I could go back to, some of my older bosses and colleagues, but it wasn't that comfortable of a relationship that felt like I could go and ask some of the questions that I was asking, that I needed to know to build my business and to scale my business, when we needed to really get into cash flow management, because we were just figuring it out and making it do at a certain point, when I needed to really make a true hire and like a hefty investment into a head of production and into full-time staff versus, part-time, and kind of making it happen. And I started going to conferences.
Yeah.
I actually started with Black Women Talk Tech because we were at the start of workflow as well. I knew people that were in tech. They were friends, but they weren't really, if I asked for something, they weren't giving me what I need. I'm going to only ask you one time. You know what I mean? If you give me that energy, like I'm bothering you, drop me a link, but not like have a conversation with me. I'm not going to ask you again. I'm going to go figure it out though. Yeah. So I started going to conferences like Black Women Talk Tech, and then Female Founders Collective, like we've talked about. And there's so much power in going out and joining communities where you can just learn from other entrepreneurs and people that are in similar places as you, or even in places that you want to be. I joined WPO this year, went to the conference, was in tears. Like, there is over 800 women around this country that their businesses are making. You have to have $1 million revenue base to even join the community.
Yeah.
70 million, 400 million, $200 million a year. They're not famous. They're not all over social media. You know, they're not this picture that's painted of what a founder and a female founder is. And there was just, so I was like, it was tears of joy to be able to be in that environment and experience that and share space with them. I will invite you to the conference. It's in May.
Yeah.
You can come and you can join. But it was just like, again, randomly going to WeBank and randomly walking up to them and asking them questions and asking the CEO questions. Every time I put myself in that position, I've learned so much more, and I've gained a whole new community, and I've gained so much knowledge that will continue to catapult me. And then, of course, put me in a position where I can continue to share it out with people.
I love that. See, this is what I'm talking about. Community is so important. Asking questions is so. I will look stupid to anybody. I don't care. That y'all don't pay my bills. Y'all don't have the vision God gave me. I don't care. You can laugh. And like, I was just listening to a podcast earlier today, and Alex Hormozy. Are you familiar with him?
Mm-mm.
I love him. I'll send you some of his stuff.
I think I see it, but the name doesn't ring a bell.
He's great. And I mean, he basically has this company that acquires a bunch of companies, and he has assets over in about 200 million. Last year he was at 80 million. Now he's at about like 200 million. He's just really smart. I love him. And he was talking about the biggest fear that people have is judgment. That's why people won't ask questions. That's why people won't raise their. I will hold a room hostage until I get my answers. You know, like with you, when I see you, I'm like, Tahira, this is happening. How are you dealing with this? And that's one of the reasons why I adore you so much, because you're like transparent. This is what's happening. This is where we were. Here's how we're dealing with it. I don't like this. I don't feel good around these things right now. I love that stuff. And in that, right, it creates more safety where you can share more, you can collaborate more. And it's in community where we can discover our answers that can help us to continue to succeed. We have to have that.
Agreed. 1000%. And here's to continuing to create community. One of the things you asked earlier when we first got on was, what did you say? Do I have a masterminds group?
Yeah, I was like, are you in a mastermind?
Yeah. And like, kind of, but I'm up for the challenge of us figuring out how we create that, not just us independently, but even with our extended communities, how we create that for agency owners, production company owners, even aspiring ones, directors, and really navigating how we create that space in 2024, if you're up for it.
Yeah, I'm so down. I have so many friends that, like, I got this one friend who just turned a client. He's running a business that has a few million in revenue each year. Another really close friend, she raised like 2.4 and she's doing really well. Like, I have all these friends that are doing okay, they're doing well, but living in isolation. It's just them and their problems. And then I'm like, y'all, I'm like, oh, I know someone who just had that problem. Oh, let me connect. I'm like, yo, we all just need to, it's a meeting of the masterminds. You get the masterminds together and everybody's, Tahira, what did you go through that you are seeing I'm headed down that same path, and you can give me a piece of information that will save me 5 years of pain, right? Like, that's the intention of community. That's the intention of masterminds, where you get people who have this big goal, common goal, and come together and they're sharing what they know to help them get it faster.
Right. And not lose time or money, really, because half of the mistakes cost. What? Half of the mistakes cost money than anything else. And money just losing money leads to pain and distress and everything that follows from there.
When I say I have had some costly mistakes in these past, I was thinking about one this morning. I was cringing.
It's
When you
always
got
something.
on and I was like, "How you doing?" And you did that sigh, and I said, "Whatever that is, that's how I feel." I was thinking about that money.
For real. It's like, yeah, we just making it through 2023 is what I keep saying. We're just going to get to the holiday. 2 more questions. You're rebranding to Willie B Studios.
Yeah.
Why?
So, like I said, actually, I'm gonna take you through the evolution.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
because remember, I didn't know what I was doing. I just had this vision. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do this thing. And so it started out. I was like, I want to do a physical studio. And so I had a really big client in Dallas. I moved to Dallas and I was going to use that for a lot of things. One,
I remember this.
yeah, to work on building relationships with that client. So one with all of the work that we've had has come through relationships because I'm willing to do things like that, where I'm like, I will do whatever I need to do to invest in having this thing work out. And investments look different in the context of creating relationships. Right. So went there for that. And I started building the company. I also used it as an opportunity for me to learn more about Texas and the way that their perspective on our industry and what their establishments look like and institutions and policies and governance looks like, because that's a big part of our industry. It heavily impacts the work that we do. And I started scouting and visiting studios and doing meetings and meeting with people and trying to figure out, where's the best place for me to do this. And I would say about 5 months into my research, and I also recommend, if you have the opportunity to get on the ground and do market research in that way, do it. And about 5 months in, I was like, "Ooh, I'm obsessed with Texas, but this is not the place for this, for my vision to have it happen." And I started getting a whole bunch of work calling me back in New York, and new client opportunities calling me back in New York. So then I made the decision to go back to New York. And I get back to New York, and as I'm going through, as I'm deeper and deeper in building this company, I'm like, man, this is turning more into like a digital marketing thing. That's where the client needs are pulling me more towards that. So I was like, all right, well, we're going to be a production company who also does digital marketing. So then I changed the name to Willie B Media. And then in that, clients were like, oh, so you guys buy media? And I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
I thought that too. I was like, is this media buying? Like, what kind of agency is this here?
This is what I'm talking about how I don't care what people think. I am willing to get it messy publicly. I don't, and also that empowers people to like be okay with getting it wrong and testing. Like, I'm a big fan of hypothesizing, testing, pivoting, right? So as I'm going through this and people are like, oh, so you guys buy media? And I'm like, oh, wait, no, I'm sending the wrong message here. I'm sending the wrong message. So we continue to do work that was more so production based still, and clients are having a hard time wrapping their head around like what it is that we actually do. More so like new clients, not the ones that we have and they're already on the roster. And then out of that, I brought on a brand consultant. I was like, listen, here's what we're good at. Here's what we do. Here's the vision, where we want to go. and she helped me to better formulate this. So where we are now is really turning into more of a content studio where brands can come to us, and we're very agile and flexible in budgets and the way that we do things, and having the ability to pump out high volumes of content for brands to support their storytelling needs around product, service, mission. So niching down really around the service of content creation. That's where we're at.
I love
Now,
that.
another year from now, we might be right back to media buying. I don't know, but that's where we are right now.
Don't leave it on the table, you know? We're definitely expanding into that space for sure. Hopefully
Y'all are going into media buying?
in 2024.
That's where that bag is.
It's where the bag is, but it's also where clients are starting to lean into. They want media, creative, strategy, and production.
All in one.
Yeah, but what you're in media practice, like if we'll talk offline about the strategic partnership and all of that stuff, which is really giving us the ability to be able to do it. It's very expensive to be able to build independently. But I think aside from that, what you are offering is creative direction and production, you know? So even if you don't have the media buying, they know that they can come to you and everything just be handled and done, and that you're actually behind the camera making sure that that creative integrity is, you know, guaranteed. So that's what I think is extremely valuable about what you do and you bring to the table. But yes, girl, happy to share all of the learnings about media buying once we go through that as well. That is definitely Whitney's background. Mine is definitely in operations and production optimization, and have a lot of ideas about things that can be offered as well. When you think about getting into a brick or mortar space, or what does a digital space look like, and things that some of the big holding companies are doing, but not really, that could be offerings that you start to lean into that we won't share here, but happy to
Let's do it.
You as well. So as we round it out, last question is just really, you've dropped a lot of gems, and I'm excited to really go back and dig in and pull this out for people. But any advice for future creatives and producers that are really just starting to get their feet wet in the industry, trying to navigate and figure out, you know, where they want to be and where they want to land? What would you tell them today?
Yeah, anyone starting out, I would make myself so insanely valuable by the acquiring of skills. I would start with hard skills, and then I would, because what I'm about to say is equally important, I would then make sure I'm mastering soft skills. So
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
What do you mean by hard skills? What are some of those skills?
For sure. So if you're an editor, a hard skill would look like, of course, the ability to edit, but it's learning softwares, right? There's various different types of softwares, but it's up to the editor to do the research about the industry and figure out what part of the industry is using what software. So in television, Avid is really big. And more branded content, Premiere is really big. So I would, if you don't know where you want to go, if you're like, I don't know if I want to do television, film, if I want to do digital, if I want to do social assets, right? I would still invest in learning Avid, Premiere, Final Cut, whatever it may be, CapCut. I would invest in acquiring as many skills as possible. YouTube University is free. Me and Tara were just talking about how we spend so much of our time on there, right? So that's a definition of hard skills. And then soft skills is showing up on time, learning how to send emails, learning how to communicate effectively, being kind. And these are things that you can learn. Underneath all that, there's strategies and tactics that you can put into place that can make you a master communicator. that can, I mean, I'm in a situation right now where I believe that I'm a really strong communicator, but I have a client who's very, very challenging and not knowing. This person has never worked with an agency. They know nothing about production. And it's up to me to level up my communication skills so that I can meet him where he is and effectively communicate in a way that creates confidence on his side, makes him feel safe, assures him and he made the right decision in partnering with us. So if you are any type of creator that's looking to come into this space or advance in this industry, you definitely want to continue to acquire skills and acquire skills. We're also, you look at like all the layoffs that just happened, right? There was another in the past 48 hours, all these companies just had these mass layoffs. That's not haphazardly. That's in response to what's happening in our economy and what's happening in our market. Budgets are going to get tighter. Producers like Tahira and I we're going to be in a situation where we're going to have to get much more creative about how we provide our services to clients. And a part of that is us being nimble, agile, and flexible in the type of talent that we take on. So for me, where I may have had a budget, where I've had a line for an editor, a line for a producer, a line for a graphics artist, that might get truncated into now I got one line. So now I need a person who's a hybrid, an editor who can produce independently, who can also do graphics. It doesn't mean that's an indefinite decision, but it's meeting my needs for the time that we're in right now. And so as you look to come in the industry, this is the way in which you can make yourself so insanely invaluable. And it's acquiring those skills. It's becoming more and more skilled around whatever it is that you do. And if you're seeing a lot of jobs, you might be a producer and you're seeing a lot of jobs for an assistant editor. That might be an opportunity for you to, take 6 weeks to train yourself on AE duties. And then now you can enter the market as an assistant editor and increase your opportunities substantially so that you can start to receive more requests. And listen, it's on the back end is shaky, but in terms of creatives, I think this is their market. This is they have an opportunity to own it right now.
Agreed. And you're seeing it from some of the creators too that are coming into the space as well. But I have nothing left to add. You are a blessing to us all. I am inspired. I'm literally about to text my friend like, hey, Frank, can you help me learn how to direct? Getting ready to, make sure I'm on top of my editing skills. No, you have shared so much, and I really appreciate you sharing this space and giving your insights as you always do. And I wish nothing but continued success for you. And I look forward to being right by your side and working in collaboration, but also just continuing to cheer you on because you deserve everything that you push for and that you work for and all the blessings that are getting ready to come your way.
I receive it. I've already said all the things that I feel about you. I adore you. So you're amazing.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for tuning in with us today for this episode, and we will catch you later.